Ramble. Thank you to Better Health and Athletic Greens for sponsoring today's episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 2 of our sex series. August is hot, and we're going to be doing different episodes of. We're going to have an expert on. That's going to be answering questions about sexual health.
A sexpert.
Nice. You're kind of a sexpert. Yeah.
Proclaimed sexpert.
We wanted to get someone who was very like sex positive, and we were like, who better than my very good friend Kelsey?
Hi again. Thanks for having me back, especially for this dirty
Of course. Kelsey was just on. I wasn't on during that episode, but it was the rom-com special, and you guys dabbled into a little bit of sex parties and things like that. So we wanted to have you back on. And then before that, we had you on during like 2020.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. I like hanging out. We're all friends, off life, off thread. So we talk like this just most of the time anyway.
Yes.
So this is always fun when we get to put it out for the world.
Exactly.
I mean, you gave everyone a teaser before and they just wanted more.
Exactly.
Yeah. They wanted more.
Anytime I have questions, Zach soft pitch, she's like, you and Kelsey should do a podcast called Crude and the Prude where you ask questions and then Kelsey's like, listen.
I would honestly, it's just a 30-minute call and advice from the Crude and the Prude. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Why aren't they pitching that?
I don't know.
All right, well,
I think she
we'll
just
get into
did.
it.
Yeah.
I think she just did.
Okay, great. This is it. If you want it, buy it, sell it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do my best not to be just a dirty little trash whore monster today. But that's kind
gonna be
of
a
why you
challenge.
brought me, right?
Yeah, this is a safe space.
Okay, good.
So we asked our audience to submit questions that we will be asking you.
Can't wait.
But first, how have you been?
Yeah,
God.
Let's do a
Since you
little
were on
catch
last.
up.
I don't
What's
know.
been going on?
What
What's new in
happened?
life?
What happened? Really exciting stuff. Been working on. A lot of people know me as just like an obnoxious social media person.
No, you are not
Which is true.
obnoxious.
Kind of.
That's why we love you.
Yeah.
You are
But
like-
I've been working behind the scenes on some
Ooh.
documentaries, and one just sold,
exciting.
which is really exciting, which won't come out until
Whoa,
September.
Kelsey.
So-
Kelsey, that's soon.
I know there will be more info soon, but that's been really exciting, taking up a lot of my time, and then just podcasting with the boys.
Yeah.
Just loving life, hanging with my dog,
Hippies. So
hip
fun.
with a baby on Instagram. Follow us. Really excited to talk about sex. Let's be real.
Yes.
How are you?
Amazing.
Oh, good.
So great. So fun. Living life.
How was
Live, laugh,
Sacramento?
Summertime.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Eugene got an award recently in Sacramento
Happy
for being
Pride.
gay.
Yeah.
Yay.
It's like a gay visibility award for doing stuff for the community, for the
Yay.
LGBTQIA community. So it was fun to go. And I'd never been to the state capitol before. So he was being recognized by the state assembly and senate.
Oh my God.
There were actually 2 different ceremonies. And of course, he wore like a crazy long train outfit. So he's like walking down the aisle. It was very like gay marriage-esque.
Yes.
And on the same day that they were giving the awards, they also enshrined the right to same-sex marriage in the state constitution.
Wow.
So it was like very
amazing.
fitting. Yeah.
Huge.
So it was really cool.
Oh,
it was really
love
fun.
that.
Yeah.
And they were honoring a lot of other people that day too. Really cool. Like Valentina, the drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race, was there. And Sister Roma from the Sisters of Impetual Indulgence.
Yes, good. They're getting more
That was
visibility.
really cool. Yeah. So it was really fun.
Oh, good.
That's amazing. Did you guys celebrate all together afterwards? Like the nominees? Not the nominees, the
Yes.
awards.
Yeah, they had like a little, they had after the ceremony, they had a little get together, reception, dinner thing.
Is
So
Eugene
we
running
got
for
together.
president?
Yeah.
Yes, he's now going to join.
Up the gays.
Yes, exactly.
Well, first governor. He got,
Yeah.
he got to make
Baby
his way.
steps. No, he was like, after that, he was thinking like, okay, I don't think I could ever do
Public office.
It's hard.
public office because it's so slow. And like even in the assembly, because they all give like speeches and stuff, it's like just like you see on TV, they're like all these really great ones like in support from all the different caucuses and stuff. And then one man like stood up and was like, I don't like PDA, blah, 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 blah,
Oh
blah.
my God.
Can you boo at the
That's what I was like, I
Senate?
really wanted to move, but I didn't want to get kicked out because they have very strict rules for their people watching.
I feel like there's bigger problems in the world besides PDA.
Well,
That's true,
It's a
right?
distraction tactic. All of this
Yeah.
is distraction tactic so that they can slowly take away rights of women and minorities. It's like, that's what it all is.
yeah.
So after that, he was like, I wouldn't be able to handle that type of opposition. 'Cause it's so,
Yeah.
so dumb. There's no thought behind it.
Right.
So
It's the power to the people, and your voting matters. So vote.
Yeah.
yes, please vote.
Yes.
Exactly.
Very cool.
So fun.
Yeah.
Maggie, what about you? What have you been up to?
Yeah,
I've
Maggie,
been so
what have you
boring.
been up to?
I've been so boring. I've just been doing a lot of house organization right now.
Nice.
Yeah, spring cleaning is kind of late for me this year.
That's a kink.
Other than that, we're good. We're Gucci. Yeah.
Good. You guys having a lot of sex?
Yes. Sex all day, all night.
I feel like that's such an invasive
Maggie.
question.
I
And they've
know.
found, like, studies have shown that most people lie about the answer to that question.
Really?
And then also what they found
How do
is
they
that
lie?
they usually double it. And then
Double?
They usually double their answer. And then they've also found that amount of sex does not correlate to healthy or happy relationship.
Really?
That's true.
Or like sex per week, a number, a perfect number doesn't exist essentially.
Huh. Yeah. Is it just very on couple to couple?
Yeah,
Or okay.
totally personalized, specific. And it's also like, what even is sex? And it's like queer people are being finally introduced into these surveys. Did you know they didn't even have to include women in medical research until 1993
I'm
legally?
not shocked by that.
That's crazy.
Insane. I know.
I thought you were going to say like 63. But
No,
93.
93. They didn't have to include women in medical research. Wild.
That's
Well,
crazy. Because, I mean, women make up more, I'm going to say more, but
Yeah.
I'm not actually, I don't know if that's based in fact. We are more than half the population.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like we were definitely taking women-based medications.
I was going to say all the medications and stuff.
1993.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild to me.
That's crazy.
You know.
So going back to your history, like how are you, did you ever get like a talk about the birds and the bees? Why do they even call it the birds and the bees? Like what was your experience when you were younger with sex?
I feel like I grew up very double life, like very Hannah Montana. And now I can say those things because we did Hannah Montana on the Guilty
And you
Pleasures.
now know the reference
And I
because
now
you did
get
it
it.
before.
You're now good.
I
Stop.
did before.
Stop.
Where I was like, I was raised really religiously in a Southern Baptist community, but not like in my family necessarily. It was more just like a community. And so I would go to church and you were taught like definitely being gay is wrong and definitely fucking before marriage is wrong. And then I went to public school in Florida and had an older sister. And so then I was like a slut.
Exposed to everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, so for a while I was living this dual life, and of course I feel like I learned about sex through the church, which is like
Wait.
so ass backwards.
You're like the church talking about it or the other people at church?
no,
Like the other kids at church. You know what I mean?
very valid question because
Yeah.
church kids are horny as fuck.
Yeah.
No, it was always about like premarital sex. It was like what is sex? And then
Like, why are you making such a big deal?
Yeah, they were definitely talking about it before I think was appropriate for kids to talk about it. And I say appropriate for casual sex to be talked about, not to learn about sex. I don't think you can ever be too young to start learning about sex in your body and consent and autonomy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So was a late bloomer amongst my friend group, but that was very early still.
Kelsey,
for
a
the
late
rest
bloomer?
of life.
Whoa.
The country standards.
Whoa.
I think I just had a big old bunch of slutty slut friends who experimented very early. But I did learn later on in life, once I understood about like what sex was and sexuality, that I actually had sex with women before I ever even kissed a boy in high school.
What?
So I was experimenting and like being with women as a bisexual person.
Yeah.
Way before I, quote, lost my virginity, quote, which we all know is a made up term and virginity is contract. So that was like kind of fun to unpack and recognize later on in life.
And did
But,
it start
yeah.
as something was like, ooh, I'm interested in you? Or was it like, I've never kissed a boy, like,
Yeah, of course it was
like exploration.
ooh, truth or dare exploration. Like, let's practice for guys. And then it was like, we had one Smirnoff Ice and we'd be like, I'm so fucked up. What if we made out? We all just were so fucking horny. And I think, you know, it felt good. And we were like, we're not supposed to feel good with each other. We're supposed to feel good with boys. And it's like, that was so limiting and constricting. And so I think a bunch of us kind of repressed it or pushed it away. But I never really had trouble calling myself bisexual or identifying with it. And I think originally it felt very like pick me behavior from a girl where it was like, I make out with girls sometimes. And it still felt like men saw it as performative. And it wasn't until I really like left my hometown and moved to New York City that I got to see like queer people just like living and existing, that I was finally like, okay, I feel like I can be this person and not feel ashamed or, accused of something or another, being too much or too attention-y or too greedy or whatever. So, and that was when I was like 17.
17.
Yeah, when I moved to New York.
You moved to New York into 17.
I know. It was wild.
But I think that's the power of visibility, right? Just seeing people who you don't even know who you identify with, and then you see it, and then you realize like, wow, that's me.
Yeah, those are my people. They exist. And like, not everyone is as lucky, and I totally get that. But like, even now with the power of social media, putting it on your feed, like following queer hashtags, following queer people, I was like, oh my God, like I wish I could have grown up now with that, like with how out we are and the visibility, because even from fucking 10 years ago, it's so completely different. Yeah. So it's just, I like the direction we're headed, but we're also still not far enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has your relationship with sex like changed from when you were then to now?
Rainie, what a good question, because I was terrified that my life was always going to be based in shame, like growing up around the church.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Well, church is very shame-based. Yeah.
Yeah. And like also being a woman when I was with men, that there was like that patriarchal chokehold, no pun intended, of like men do this, women do this, we're seen as this.
Everything's rooted in fear.
Yes. And like, do I deserve orgasms? Do I deserve pleasure? Like I literally got it tattooed on me because I was like, I never ever want to go back to that place of not feeling like sex is not meant to be enjoyed, that it's not supposed to be funny. Like, how silly is sex? Sex is so silly. We're literally putting parts in and around each other. Like,
there's lots of fun sounds. Goofy. Yeah, it's goofy.
Yes, and it wasn't until I started to see sex like I hate to say more casual because that makes it sound like it's not special for people, and I think it needs to be for some people. But when I started to see it as like, and this is gonna be real casual, so I'm sorry. But when I started to see sex kind of like a handshake with someone, like sometimes it's awkward, like sometimes you shake your hand this way, but like when it feels right and it feels good, it's a good sturdy handshake, you know? And I started to see like people differently, and like people I never thought I would sleep with, I started sleeping with those kinds of people. And now when I'm so sexually explorative and so pro sex, and I think it still freaks people out, which to me is just like, I can't go backward.
Exactly.
I just think like, I wish more people knew that sex can be this way, because so many of us still fear it. We still have sex without pleasure. We still feel bad about it. We still play parts in sexual encounters. And so for me, yes, it demonetizes so much. Yes, it doesn't get me brand deals. Yes, I'm not family friendly. But to me, I'm like, more people need to know that this feeling around sex can exist. And how awesome is that? And it's not everything. It's not my entire life. But like the amount of additive it has been to my life now that I'm so much more open about it. Like, you can't ever go back.
Why not use that pleasure? It exists.
Exactly. Good question. I'd never thought about it or spoken about that.
Oh yeah. I mean, Okay, so plugging in now to the audience questions.
Okay, we want to start off hot.
Wait, I want to know how much you both talk about sex openly. Because I have to drag it out of Maggie in our group chat. So I know sometimes.
Yeah, you do. I feel like there's a part of my religious upbringing that I had to unpack for so long because it was very much like shameful. Oh. I don't know. I'm genuinely more of a shyer person too. Yeah. So like being comfortable with my own body has taken longer than I would say as like one of my close friends.
It's totally not anybody's fucking business also. Yeah. It's like, just because I'm like, everyone should try this, I'm not being like, that means you also have to talk about it.
No, absolutely
not.
As
your friend, I'm like, I wish I knew more about your sex life.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We make a lot of decisions every day, but some matter more than others. For example, last year I left my corporate job, and it took a lot of thinking and strategizing to get through that. Sometimes we're faced with a crossroads in life, and we don't know which path to take. Whatever it is, therapy can help you map out your future and trust yourself to find the way forward. Therapy can help you make the right decisions for your life. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/sitwithus today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/sitwithus. As I approach my birthday this year, I really want to focus on wellness as part of my daily routine. In true Virgo fashion, I'm all in on finding the fastest and best solution. Our next partner is AG1, the daily foundational nutritional supplement that supports whole body health. I gave AG1 a try because it's easy to use and seamlessly fits into my morning routine. I just add a scoop every morning to my after workout smoothie. It has whole body health support, it's a multivitamin, probiotic, and more, and has many benefits. It really helps with my energy, mental clarity, and overall feeling healthier. It has 75 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and whole food source ingredients in each scoop. If you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/sitwithus. That's drinkag1.com/sitwithus. Check it out.
And like, as I come to terms with it, like, I hope that I can like openly talk about it more, but I feel like you and what you do is like so powerful because you give people like a sense of community when it comes to talking about sex and like seeing that it's not that
it's not
precious.
talked about enough,
and it's not
too.
talked about enough is like important.
And you're so confident about it. I think that's the other thing.
Yeah.
No,
So I feel like that can give other people confidence.
I heard a quote from Euphoria from Maddie where she was like, life is like 90% confidence and no one has any idea if you're faking it.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh my God,
true.
that's as long
That's
as you
very
just
true.
like try your best, maybe
Yeah.
you'll actually believe it one time.
Yeah.
But same with you, Matt. Like, I don't know anything about your sex life.
Well, I feel like it's different being in part of the gay community too, because people talk about stuff a lot more.
Yeah. It's
right?
very open.
Like I don't talk about it that much publicly, but you know, among friends and stuff, it's different.
yeah. Like if I asked you
know?
off camera, you would tell
Yeah.
me things.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
All right. Well, we can pause because I'd like, I got questions.
Not in the office, Kelsey.
Okay. Oh yeah. Sorry. I forgot you work here. Sorry.
So did you find just like more comfort in having sex and like talking about sex with those friends from high school?
Oh my God. I don't talk to anybody. I talked to like one girl that I dated in high school. Like we're still homies, but she also left Florida. So I feel like that's why we like both kind of got out.
Oh, right.
But
Moving far away helps.
Yeah.
Open your world up, literally.
Truly. But I think like there are group chats and girlfriends and people in my life that I could call and be like, can you come fish something out of my pussy? And they wouldn't even think of it twice. Like they'd be like, absolutely. Like I've done that for friends.
Yeah.
I've like had to pluck ingrown hairs. I've had to take Benoit balls out of friends that were like way too far up there. And like, I'm just so glad I have that. And I couldn't imagine not having those people in my life now. Yeah. But not everyone wants to talk about it. Some people are like, Kelsey, not at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And those aren't dinners I want to go eat at. But I try to tone it down because I know that not everyone is as comfortable talking about it. So, do you guys talk about sex with your parents?
No.
No, absolutely not.
I
No.
do.
You do too?
Yeah.
Rainie.
I didn't even say this on the last episode, but yeah. Not explicitly, really. But I'll definitely include it in a story if it's important to the story.
Oh my gosh. And are they comfortable with it?
Oh, my dad, no. I don't talk to my dad about it. He probably would be fine.
Yeah.
But my mom she's like a cool mom.
See, I think that also kind
Yeah.
of influences the way you can also talk about it within community or publicly.
But you're cool,
Yeah.
Mom.
Is if your parents
And within your family. I could talk about it with siblings, like my sisters, but like and that took a while because when we were younger, I was like, oh my God, you're 14. I'm 17, like, I don't want to hear about this.
And
This
you have a
is-
queer sister too, which is like a completely different sexual experience, I'm sure.
So it was
Like,
nice. I mean,
Yeah.
she still like gets icked out when we talk about stuff, but like we like ebb and flow. We get icked, and then we're like, okay, so tell me more.
Yeah. Aw, but that's so important to have
Yeah.
because the same thing with like people who can't openly talk about vaginal health. I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Because my pussy busy. You know what I mean? Like, she always got something going on. And I'm just like, who the fuck would I talk to?
Yeah.
And so I think that comes from an upbringing too of like positively, openly talking about like,
Shouldn't be shameful.
yes, exactly.
accepting,
It's just as important as like, I don't know, your sinus health. Like, or, you
your
know,
dental health.
your dental, that's better.
Yeah.
That's
Your
a better
sinus
example.
health.
I go through a lot of sinus issues, so that's why that one came to mind.
Oh my god. Okay, so should we go to one of the first questions? Okay.
These are questions from our viewers or listeners.
Okay. So I'm just gonna go out of order based on like where I think we should
And the
start.
theme of these
first.
are just like, you said it was the down and dirty episode.
It's the down and dirty, yeah.
Cool, so nothing's off limits.
Nitty
No.
gritty. Yeah.
Okay, well, I've
Here you
never
go.
been shit on and I've never shat on anyone, so I'm just gonna start there.
I mean, not yet.
noted.
Not yet. I like that. Have you
Would
ever
you-
shat on anyone?
No, I'm not doing that. I would probably throw
Even
up.
accidental?
I would
It's
probably throw
important
up.
to have
No.
boundaries. I mean,
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. You know what? That's a good place to start.
Okay.
We're talking about like the kink community or entering the like sex positive movement. People always want to talk about dibs or
Status.
bids, however you like to.
Oh, because it's the same letter.
Yeah, it's the same letter. Dibs or bibs. So your boundaries, what are your absolute no's? And the thing is people will be like, I'm down to try anything. And it's like, oh, no. You don't understand. When we say boundaries, you need to be able to say, I don't want to get shit on. I
Or
don't want to get
blood.
pissed on. Or blood play, or needle play, or choking, or consensual non-consent. Like you just know that when you say, I'll try anything, like
Yeah.
figure out what your boundaries are. There's FetLife communities. You can take quizzes to like discover different kinks and figure out like if yes or no. So like that's a big one.
Right.
Then your status.
How do you even find out what your boundaries are if you didn't even know about like blood or
kink play
exactly
that it exists.
Where do you go for
play,
resources?
animal play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then your status. So last test results and your STI health.
Yeah.
And you know, there's so much shame around that. You could do a whole episode about that. Desires is what would you like out of this sexual experience? And that's just being able to like communicate your needs at like a high level part or a like, I just want to have fun and make someone feel good. Or
Right.
I would like to specifically try this, this, and this, and don't do this, this, and this.
Yes.
My intention for this is
Yes,
it can be very
intention.
specific, but it can also just be to have fun.
Okay.
To feel good.
Yeah.
Or it can be really specific. So desires, what do you want out of this sexual experience? What's your personal intention? What are your boundaries? And what's your sexual health?
Is this when you're going to parties? You have to kind of go through this really quick. You're like, hello.
This is something that I find in not only the kink communities, which is like sex parties, play parties, lifestyle parties, but also just now what I use any sexual encounter.
Gotcha.
And even like going as basic as like any dating encounter. If I'm
Right.
going on a date, I like to be like, what are your boundaries within a relationship? What's your status? Like, what's your goal with this? Just
Yeah.
because like
more
part of being
transparent.
like an adult in having sex is being able to communicate and talk. Oh,
Period.
wait, here we go.
That's a big point.
Yeah.
I like that. Does your chronic pain come in? Like, is there an overlap of like, how do you deal with chronic pain? And
Oh my God, yes. So like, it's very interesting because I was writing about this when I was still working on the chronic pain book, but like a big part of pain in the brain is breaking the cycle of either thought about the pain or the somatic experiencing of pain, which is like the actual feeling of it. And distraction is a really good one. And orgasm is a flood and rush of endorphins that produce good feelings. And so for some people, actually, sex is a really great distraction from pain.
Wow.
So you're actually going like, for me, it could be that my face hurts. Well, if you put the this sensation somewhere else down south.
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking about my face too much. Now, to the opposite effect of that, sometimes I'll be feeling great, having no pain, and then a sexual act, like let's say blowjobs, for example, might trigger pain, right?
Just 'cause you have
kissing.
your jaw.
Exactly. So for me, then it's really, really crucial that I'm able to vocalize, hey, I love this. I'm having so much fun with you. This has nothing to do with you, but I'm experiencing chronic pain and just need a break, or vocalize what my needs might be in that moment. And sometimes you don't really know. You're like, hey, can we just pause?
Can I be a pillow princess for a second?
Can I be a pillow princess for a second? You know, Maggie. You get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great question. And I feel like for a lot of people too, like we don't talk about disability in sex, but that's like a huge topic also in the kink community, is like everyone has needs, and however you need to get those needs met, whether it's like hiring sex workers or like, you know, using Grindr for quick hookups. Like I don't think we should take that part of the community out of like the sexual experience. I think like everyone deserves to feel pleasure.
Well, we got a ton of questions about hooking up with women for the first time. Do you have any tips?
Favorite.
Oh my God. Anything to think about? Anything that's different that might surprise people?
Yeah. Okay. So ready for an exclusive? I don't know if I've mentioned this on any other podcast, but I just talked about how I was writing the chronic pain book, and it was very hard and like very strugglesome for me.
Okay.
So I pivoted during my breakup to decide to make my next book actually it's going to be called, I think, The Bi Guide, which is like a guide on opening up and coming to terms with your bisexuality. And so I got to write an entire chapter about the girl date.
Wow.
And like what is flirting with a woman like, and like doing that for the first time.
Yeah.
And I had to really be like, what is that, right? Because I think what we fear is that we're flirting with someone who's straight. Who will be, you think you're flirting, and then they're like, oh my God, no, I was just trying to be friends with you, you fucking weirdo, get out of here. Like that's at the root of the fear, right?
Right.
And so
The rejection.
Or them not getting it at all, and you're like, hey, I'm trying to flirt with you, I'm not trying to be a friend.
Exactly. And with women, I think it's different with men, and maybe you can interject, Matt, to say this, but like with women, I think we're inherently kinder and more open to other women, because in society, we know that men can hurt us. We've been conditioned to know that violence against women is a problem, that we're not just going to really approach a man on the street with the same energy that we might approach a woman who is a stranger to us. So I think that also plays into, they might not get if we're flirting or just being friendly. And so what I discovered in writing this chapter was like, you're flirting with someone when it feels like you're flirting. And like, you know that feeling that I'm talking about, where like there's butterflies in your tummy, you're like kind of making a sexual joke maybe here and there, or like it's an energy exchange more than anything else. And so I say like you're flirting with a woman if like you feel like you're flirting. Now, are they flirting back is the big old question, right? And it's the same thing. If you're talking to the grocery checkout guy and you give this little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and they give one back, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, it's like, oh, we're flirting, right? Okay. You know that feeling.
If you were to have an audience, people would be like, kiss.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that moment is the same for women, where it's like, I will also kind of test out their like feelings, where I'll compliment them on something, whether it's like, oh my God, you're such a thoughtful listener, or like, you have beautiful eyes, or like, oh my God, that felt really good. Can you do that again? Like, I'll kind of throw that out there to see how they react.
You're trying to judge their boundaries.
Look at you using bids or whatever the fuck our acronym decides to be. But yeah, and I think too that's not to say also that you won't be flirting with someone who is straight, who might realize in that moment they also like flirting with a girl. Like, you might be that awakening for them. And so while I wish there was one like overarching piece of advice to say like, this is what you do, I would say that like flirting is flirting if it feels like flirting. Flirting is flirting if it feels like you're getting that same energy back. And then when it comes to like, let's say you're already on the date, or like you're already past the point of like getting out with that person, I love to use this trick for like either the moment where I'm like, all right, we got to see if we're going to kiss. Like, are we kissing? What's happening? I love to ask. So I like to say this simple phrase, should we kiss? Because
Should we?
it sounds so silly, right?
Yeah.
Like they could take it as a joke and be like, oh my God, no, you're so silly. Like, and I'm like, okay, cool. That wasn't it. They could be like, should we kiss? It becomes about us. It's not, can I kiss you? Or will you kiss me? It's like, should we do this? Like, should we? And most importantly, you're asking for consent. So like, I love that phrase so much. And let me tell you, it's never not worked.
Wow.
It's never not worked.
Wow.
Maybe with like you, Maggie. Because we're like Lauren when I'm choking. Like, should we kiss right now? But when I'm like sexually interested in someone, that's my favorite phrase. It's like, should we kiss? What if we kiss?
I feel like you're also very direct.
Ooh, yeah, that's
Like
the
I have
lesbian in
introduced
me.
you to friends and stuff, and you like straight up ask them.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever been with a girl? You're like, I've been
Hi, I'm
meeting them for
Kelsey.
2 seconds, and you're like,
Oh yeah, because I'm
Okay.
trying to find more bi people.
Yeah.
Like we're the silent majority, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like there's so many more people that are bi that are just like afraid to talk about it, or because they're already in a heterosexual relationship, they feel like it's not valid and blah, blah, blah. So I like to know, you know, we all know about that experimental college. Did you have one, Moogie?
As experimental college?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Do you have experimental high school?
No.
What are you umming about?
In high school, I did kiss one of my girlfriends because we didn't know how to kiss boys. But I feel like that was
was
like
it?
completely like explorative.
Platonic-y
Platonic.
kissing. Love that. Yeah. Now, did you ever hook up with any girls?
never like sex, just like made out.
How was it?
Not fun.
It just
you
felt
know?
different,
Not
right?
fun.
Like
Yeah.
it felt so less sparky than a
Yeah.
guy, right?
Yeah, it was like, why am I making myself do this? You know?
It's like painful.
Yeah, yeah. But see, you know,
Yeah. And like for you, you're like, I have zero desire.
no.
To
But I've
ever.
No
like
desire.
I've
No.
had intimate relationships with men where I'm like, oh, this is painful. This
Yeah.
is awful.
So
Like,
it could be just like you're
Yeah.
maybe the right one, or you could just be straight, and that's cool too.
yeah.
I hate that for you, but I could. I'm just kidding.
likes to
You don't
like
like that journey for you.
Rainie, have you ever had a phase, or are you bi? What's your deal?
I feel like it's like, oh, if you are supposed to be like totally straight, you must be like repressing. But I've never had a crush on a woman ever. But I feel like it's like kind of off brand for me.
It does.
Yeah.
Didn't I say that once? I was like, you're bi. What are you talking
I
about?
should be. Like, I swear I should be, but I've just like never, I'm like,
I know. I feel like I'm
You know?
disappointing all my close
I
friends
know.
and family every time. I'm like,
The
yeah.
best shirt I saw at Pride this year was
Yeah.
a rainbow shirt that said "Unfortunately Straight," and I was like, "That is the energy
That's how I
Yeah.
feel.
that I think we need." But like,
Yeah.
or even just like I hate saying phase because that's by erasure, but like sometimes I go through periods of time where I feel more heterosexual, or like I feel more homo, and like I just it's like
It's
the
all a
phases of the moons.
spectrum.
It's all a spectrum, and you should feel free to slide as left or right or center as
Yeah.
one wants, and you know sometimes
You don't have to
know
prove
until you
yourself to
try.
anyone.
Yeah, you don't. You know, and I think especially in the queer community, it can still be dangerous to like
Yeah.
have to prove anything. So it's like you got to do you, boo. You got to do you.
And what feels good.
Yeah.
we've got a question from actually somebody in the office
Oh my gosh.
submitted to my audience questions. So Desiree was
It's
asking.
Zach. Oh,
Zach would like to know.
Zach would like to know. Zach is wondering.
clitoris? I am the clitoris.
Well, actually, it's very similar. So, how do I sexily tell someone that's not the spot?
Oh, good question, Desiree.
How
Wait,
do
I
you
want to hear
sexily
y'all's.
say it?
Yeah.
I want to hear
Sexily
y'all's.
tell someone, Matt?
I feel like there's
Guys have
not
a
like
couple
a
spot.
sex. I feel like it's not a sexy way. Like
I feel like there's not a sexy
I feel like you just
way.
have to say, like give
that
like the
is sexy.
direction.
Yeah.
You
Clear
know?
communication.
Yeah, just like tell the
Yeah.
direction or what you need. I feel like you can't just be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
I feel like I'm in an escape room. It's like different things like every day. It's like beep boop boop, not this time.
once you use this key, that's it. You're done with it.
Nope.
That's so funny. Your pussy's an escape room. I think there's like this. I love the direct,
Yeah.
clear communication that Matt suggested,
Yeah.
which
You don't want to waste time, you know?
Because you don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find that to be a lot easier with someone that I'm comfortable with.
And it can ruin the experience too if it's not good for a longer time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the best advice I ever got, and I've said this a million times before, is to stop faking orgasms. And I think it's the same thing as like stop faking pleasure. Because if it doesn't feel good, why are we? This is just doing a disservice for both or more, all of us.
So you, yeah.
And I think there's also something sexy in like using your hands to do it.
Oh, okay.
Like sometimes I'll be getting it, and like also the pussy is not what we think it is, guys. We think that there's like a clit, a vagina, and the clit is where it feels good and the vagina is where it feels good. Y'all, your clitoris is like in the shape of a fucking wishbone. It goes down the vulva, which is the outside. It goes sometimes into the upper thighs. Like feeling and sensation is everywhere. And some of us have more labia than others. And so the sensation can kind of like move around, and like that totally can happen while someone's experiencing pleasure down there. So for me, sometimes it's whether I kind of take my hand and move their hand to the right area, or I'll stay like a little to the left, or there's nothing funnier than when someone's like fingering your thigh and you're like, that's not even the hole, but like go off, king. So like redirection in a sexy way. You don't even have to say anything in that moment. You can kind of
just move it. You just move their
it.
hand for them.
Yeah. And what you'll realize too is that some people learn these things from being in relationships. And so their vagina or vulva might be completely different from yours. And so they just use that same tactic because it made this one person feel good.
Right.
And so I think, like to Matt's point, sometimes the outright like, I don't get off on clitoral stimulation is as easy as just saying that, or being like, I'm more of a penetrative inside kind of girly or person. But yeah, I think there's like a subtle, sexy way to do it with your own hands, because then they get the visual.
Right.
But also sometimes if just a little to the left is all you need. And when you whisper it, it makes it more sexy.
I hope you use that voice exclusively.
No, I like to use a British Cockney voice. A little to the left, eh, mate?
Could you imagine?
Yes, I can.
You're like, can I have?
He's a 10, but he yells at me in Cockney accent when he comes.
Yes. So good. This is one that's kind of related to that. Audience question. I'm so worried about not pleasing my girlfriend that I'm not in the moment. Any tips? I feel like if you think too much, bad things happen. You know?
That goes so much deeper than just a sexual experience. That goes into who we are as people, as people pleasers. That also goes into the way you learned about what sex is. Is it a shared experience, or is it you achieving something? I think we all put way too much pressure on orgasm. Right. That is not the goal of sex. Sex is supposed to feel good and be fun and silly and passionate and crazy and whatever you want it to be. But there's no end goal,
right?
Even though we've been literally conditioned and watching to believe that. So I think going a lot, no pun intended, deeper into like, where does that come from? Is it fear of them leaving you, being like, you're bad at eating pussy, bye, you know? Or is it, I'm just fearful that I won't get the chance to do this again. I'm fearful that they're not telling me if it's good enough. So I love to do check-ins. I love to do with consistent partners, sexual check-ins. Like, kind of like, I'll make it a joke.
You're like, rate 1 to 10.
Literally, I'll be like, so if I was Uber, what are you giving that ride? Like, how was? I think you initiating the question will make them feel so much safer to give feedback, and framing it as like a yes and. I think we need to get rid of the word like but in a sentence, right? Like, that felt really good, but I would like it more, because then that makes the other person feel like, oh God, you just like negated that.
Or you like buttered me up to give me criticism.
Yes, you're giving me a compliment sandwich, which is really just like feedback in between two compliments. So I think it's like, yes, that felt really good, and I would love it. I loved it when you did this, that, and the other. Or I loved, or like, that was a disaster we just had, and I think next time we're gonna do better because this is what we're gonna do. Like, it just gives it more room for a positive conversation around sex. But like, sex check-ins, more often. Yes, please. Do you guys ever do that? Do you guys do like sex check-ins? Or is
It's like
sounding
not
silent?
as formalized.
Yeah,
know?
I wouldn't say
Yeah.
that.
Not like if I'm Uber.
Yeah.
You just kind of do it in the moment,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Rainie, you ever do a sex check-in?
So I'm 26.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats.
And I feel like in the last few years, I've been sort of like, men are sort of like just flop era.
Yeah.
So I feel like most of the people I hooked up with were like 24 and under.
Ooh, that's a specific type.
I think it's just, especially at that age, you're like, oh, I want to be just like naturally really good. And it's a skill kind of in a lot of ways. So it makes sense that you wouldn't be, but
Because it
Yeah.
can kill the ego if
Right.
if feedback is not received
Right.
well or given well.
yeah.
But then there's also times, I will say, when egos need to be a little killed because like I recently went on a tear of 27-year-olds, like could not stop fucking 27-year-olds.
Oh,
They just, every single one was a 20. I was like, how does this keep happening to me? And one of them said, when we were doing like our sex check-in before sex, actually, because I was like, what kind of experience are we having? What are your dibs? He said, I don't like to eat girls out. And I went, totally valid. Like, where'd that come from? And he said, well, I've just had really traumatic experiences. And he kind of said it as a joke, like, oh, they're just so dry. And I was like, what? And he said, well, the first time, it smelled.
Oh.
And the second time, the girl had some toilet paper in her labia. And I looked at him and I said, grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
Toilet paper
That's-
is traumatizing?
You're fucking, that's why you don't eat pussy, my guy? Are you kidding me? So I really gave him some salty feedback because
Yeah.
I just felt like if you can't be around the smell of a pussy, you
Yeah.
don't deserve to be around a pussy. Because pussies smell. That's like genuinely what they are and do. And if you couldn't in that moment, like ask the person to just go wipe down, which speaking of, that goes to my story about eating ass that I told you to remind me of next time. If you don't just go wipe it down and can't communicate that, and instead now you're going to punish yourself and every other vulva that you hook up with by not doing that. Like, it's fine if it's just a preference, like you don't want to, totally get it. But like, I had to check that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. There's one actually similar. It was my boyfriend doesn't like to kiss me after he comes in my mouth. Because he doesn't like the taste.
Oh yeah, really? You don't like the taste of your cum? Interesting. You just fucking came in my mouth. See that? Okay, this.
What would you tell that person?
I'd be like, next time I'm gonna make you eat your own cum just to know what we have to do. See, okay, so this goes back to like, is it a preference or are you really grossed out by your own cum?
Yeah.
Because if you are, we got to do it. We gotta unpack that baby. We gotta ask you to explore a little bit more.
Right.
Have you ever tasted your own cum?
Everyone has. Yeah.
You ever tasted your own cum?
No.
Okay. I forgot. Sorry, Maggie. We're not gonna go that personal. Ray, you ever tasted your own cum?
I didn't even know girls could come. Like, good
Yeah.
girls could, there was an excretion.
Oh yeah. Rainy. Girls come. Vaginas come.
Girls come.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Can you just explain like what women coming is?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Okay. So I think the like most unfair thing about having a dick is that it's so visible. Like, are you horny? Is your dick hard? It's something you can see. Like, someone could be horny and be soft, and people are like, what? What's wrong with me? Like, am I not enough? Am I not hot enough? Blah, 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 blah. But with vulva owners, we have the luxury, I do believe, of like it being more personalized. So it's a lot like everything's happening a lot more internally than we can see. So no, it's not the same explosion that you see with semen. But like the wetness we feel, and like a lot of times it's like a little sticky, like the secretion is a little bit more tacky than the regular like wetness someone might feel. But like when you orgasm, there's absolutely a different texture and viscosity and texture to the fluids coming out of you. And then I know everyone's going to ask about squirting, but like, here's what I always say is like, squirting is real. And people are always like, it's pee. They've done tests about it. And it's like, well, yeah, but on that person it might've been more urine. And like on this person, like penis owners come and pee out of the same hole. So like sometimes semen has pee mixed into it. Like you know what I'm talking about? Have you been with semen that like sometimes it's a little yellow before it comes out, or the texture can be more thick or more
I don't know.
slimy?
I've never like thought about it.
They come from like different places in the penis.
I thought it was just based on like diet and
That
like,
too.
hydration.
Totally different factors.
I don't
Yeah. And so what they're noticing with like female ejaculation is that it is sometimes a mixture of urine and secretion from the vagina, but sometimes it is like fully vaginal fluid, which is different from your urethral bladder fluids. Yeah.
Now
Next time you come,
I know.
feel it a little bit more. Like you can almost like rub between your fingers and like go like this, and it's like
And I know it
more stringy.
I know it depends on like where you are in your menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
And then you get more.
Not to be confused with discharge.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even orgasm and you'll get that like kind of sticky.
Right.
Bodily fluids are a part of sexual interaction unless you're doing like sterile nurse play or something. Like
Hey.
that's
Nurse
gonna happen.
play.
You know? And so, I think there is, again, I think it just also comes with age and experience of like get over it and accept that there's gonna be queefs. There's sometimes gonna be poo accidentally if you're doing butt stuff, and bodily fluids are gonna happen. And I personally, if it was just you have a thing about germs, I can respect that. But if it's like you don't like the taste of it, then why are you coming in other people's mouths?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I
that
would-
kind of goes into like some weird dominance
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you do with that person?
Oh no, that was just an audience question.
Oh, okay. I was
So
like,
that Rainie's
I was like,
experience.
can I
I
talk
did
to
not-
him? Can I talk just for a second?
Can we dial him up right now, please?
Yeah,
Can we dial
and like,
him up?
listen, if your cum is really, really bad as a guy, sometimes that can indicate health problems or poor diet, or like you got to quit smoking, and like, listen,
Truth.
sometimes it's a health thing. So if you don't even want to eat your own cum, bitch, neither do I. Holy shit, I'm fucking selfish. I'm being a little mean, but like, maybe that's just me. I am a little mean.
Okay, so for all three of you, there's a question. What does sexual attraction feel like from a potential asexual person?
Well, for me, it's a feeling in my loins, in my underbelly, in my garments. It's it's a full body
Thunder
experience.
down under.
Literally, like you get your nips get a little pinchy, your tummy does a little flippy floppity.
Yeah.
A rush of blood.
A rush, an engorgement, some might say.
Yes. A moistening.
Ooh, a wetness, a drippity drip drop.
Oh boy.
A hardness for some. A shortness of breath.
Man, I feel like that encapsulates it, but I feel like it's also kind of like mental. You become like mentally stimulated too. It's not just like physical.
Oh,
Right?
If you have never read Come As You Are or She Comes First, those books talk so much about the mental part of sex being more important than the actual physical response.
Yeah.
Because physical response does not equal desire.
No.
You can be wet and not horny. You can be experiencing something terrible and your body will still orgasm. Like the body does what the body does, and the mind is unfortunately so separate from sex that we've been taught. So to be able to combine both of those can be a huge block for people, for sure. That's such a good point.
Traction is in the mind.
Yeah.
Is it like a narrative sort of? Like when you say it's in the mind, you're like, oh, I like in thinking about this person, or is it like?
I feel like, do you guys play this in your head? Like I know within 2 minutes of talking to someone if I want to have sex with them. And what I picture is like that moment of passion right before sex where it's like the making out, like the sort of falling on the bed, or like the being pushed up against a wall, or like the kiss in the car. Like I visually see
You're
that
trying to
moment.
make your playbook before it happens.
Not
Like,
even
predict the
it's
future.
just, that's what plays in my head when I'm getting like horny for someone. Right? Like I'll see their features. I'll be like, they have really good lips, or like I would love to put my hands through their hair, like around their neck.
And this is within like 5 minutes of meeting this person?
Yes.
Wow.
If I'm sexually attracted to them.
Right.
I'm not doing it with
That's
everyone.
a fast fantasy track.
I know. What do you think about when you're getting horned up?
Well, I feel like it's it's like for the mental stimulation, it's like you're thinking about that person or like the parts of that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the physical parts?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like that good dick.
You know, all different parts.
Yeah. What about for you?
I have a boring answer. I was like, I have to be like emotionally attached to someone.
That's not boring. That's demisexual and that's very sweet.
Oh, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
sweet.
Yeah.
It's very valid. And hot, arguably hotter than like just physical attraction sometimes.
Yeah, but I've like talked to close friends and I was like, do you have to feel? And they're like, no. And then I like learned about demisexuality. I was like, oh, there you go.
Yeah, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
And like how special
emotional
to feel
connection.
that. Yeah. Rainie, what about you?
I think I have like a little storybook in my head.
Yeah.
And then we met at this party that doesn't exist. And then
Already planning your
full
life.
fantasy.
yeah.
Planning your life.
Is it a picture? Yeah, it's obviously a picture book. Okay.
Yo, and like, but then that's the thing is like that
The
can get
rom-com.
ruined. So like if
is
they're a
really-
bad kisser, you could be
deal
fantasizing all night about this person, and then when it finally happens, you're like, oh no.
When it turns into a nightmare.
You turn Australian and they turn into a nightmare. Oh no.
What's the best sex advice you've ever gotten?
Stop faking orgasms.
Okay.
Yeah. That it doesn't help anybody. And there's a difference between like just needing to wrap it up and say,
You're just like, I gotta go.
yeah, like, hey, it's okay with like, get used to saying, hey, I'm not gonna come this time.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's nothing to do with you. Like, figure out
Every
a way.
day is a different day.
Yeah, like, hey, this feels so good. I'm having so much fun. And I keep going. I'm just not gonna come this time. Or like, hey, I came earlier. You already made me come. You don't need to. Yeah, communication is so fucking sexy. And I had to learn how to take my ego out of that. Like if I was hooking up with someone, especially a woman, because I'm like, women know each other's bodies so much better than men. And if a girl was like, hey, I'm not going to come, I would be like,
What are you wrong?
What? Is it me?
is it me? And instead I went, think about how much courage that must have had to take them to even vocalize that. And then I instantly put myself in their shoes going like, I know exactly what it feels like to be having fun and hooking up with someone and just I know I'm not going to orgasm for XYZ reason, or I'm frustrated that I can't come. And so then it becomes, I go
Then it's not
internal
enjoyable.
and I'm not present. And
Yeah.
it's like breathing is your best friend. Tantra is your best friend. Coming back into the moment is your best friend. And all like take the seriousness and the ego out of sex because it's not always your fault. It's not always something you're doing. It could be the other person. We never know their story. But like if you can not take anything personally, unless you're obviously being directly given a specific set of words, like don't come in my mouth if you don't like the taste. I think everyone would be having better sex.
Do you have any sex toy recommendations? Any plugs?
Boys.
What not? Recently I got into this thing that looks like a stingray. Like it's flat silicone and it has kind of like this.
I was like, where's that going?
Yeah, it kind of is like a raised hump in the center. It's kind of like the size of a small pan that you cook an egg in, you know?
Oh, okay.
And it's like silicone flap and then the middle is sort of raised and it turns on,
Suction
it
cup.
vibrates.
Whoa.
It's a suction cup. No, it's not one of those cleaner fish.
A bottom
It
feeder?
vibrates, and what it's meant to be used for is you put it inside when you're wearing a strap on, inside the part that goes
Oh,
up
I
against
see.
you, so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you also get pleasure, and it vibrates out onto all of those parts that the clitoris also it runs through, so like your thighs and like the front and the back of your vagina, vulva. So that one's been really fun. So my favorite brands to work or like use are I like Adam and Eve is a really fun one. What's the one that we always do brand deals with? Bellesa. They're really inclusive and like.
See, you say you're not brand deal friendly. There you go.
Oh, yeah, well, that one works really well.
There you go.
Yeah, Bellesa is really great. The really expensive one, but it's more like quality over quantity because you don't want to cheap out on sex toys. The vibration is not as good. The batteries don't last as long. Like when you're picking out a sex toy, expect to at least spend $100 if you want mechanics involved. If you just want a good old dildo, anyone will do. Shit, the end of a hairbrush. Yeah, like
Anyone
whatever.
will do.
But if you want something that has mechanics involved to it, expect for a quality, good feeling, thoughtful design made by vulva owners for vulva owners, you'll be spending at least $100.
Matt, so Maggie and Kelsey both kind of talked about like how your guys' relationship with sex changed. How has yours in the last like 20 years?
The last 20 years, oh my gosh. Not that old, really.
Oh man.
The last 10.
No, I mean, I don't know. I feel like once I kind of came out as gay and started expressing that part of my life, it's been kind of the same.
Wow.
It's so good now. Like, why do I need to rock
If it ain't broke,
and find something else?
fix it,
You know,
baby.
if it's already going well, it's like, you know, if you're already happy, if you're already feeling fulfilled by things, then why do you need to start looking somewhere else for other stuff?
That's the best way to describe like all of this sexploration is like, if you're happy and fulfilled, fucking don't listen to jack shit of what I say. Take what serves you and leave what doesn't is like my favorite phrase. Like if you have that little voice in the back of your mind that's always wondering, or if you have that shame voice that's like yelling at you about something, it's like, there's probably something to be unpacked. And don't ignore that, because how beautiful can it be? Like there's so much potential, but you're so right. If like you're happy and fulfilled and like your type of sex works for you, oh my God bless.
I also feel like there's different time commitments required for certain things.
Oh yeah.
So especially like when you're like trying to build stuff, or you're really working your career, it would be a lot harder to sex explore, right?
Oh my God.
Where like in your 20s, when you're like younger, you have like a lot of energy, you're like freer, you don't have as many
body's more
commitments.
functioning.
Exactly. You don't get as hungover.
Yeah.
All this stuff, you have more time to do that type of stuff, and more like mental space to do that.
It can feel like a job.
Right.
Do you have any tips to increase your sex drive? Do you ever go through ruts of low sex drive, and how do you get out of it?
That is like one of the most common questions I get asked on my podcast too. And it all goes back to the thing we were talking about with being able to connect and understand that the mind and body are absolutely connected, and we've been told to keep them completely separate, especially with sex. It's like, this is the way a vagina is supposed to work, this is the way a dick's supposed to work, and this is supposed to be the outcome.
Yeah.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And it's like,
Yeah.
we have got to start from zero, especially if we grew up in a religious household, if we grew up in a shame-based sexual experience. Starting back from ground zero and just being like, what do I like? What feels good to me? Knowing just that basics about yourself is so crucial in experiencing partner sex. Now, once you even just have the basics, you have to also understand that everything that is going on up here in your mind is going to translate into your body, whether it be the body keeps score with chronic pain or holding trauma, or something as simple as being stressed and not being able to
Hormone related,
diet related.
Yeah.
Like, of course, there are ebbs and flows. Every single person will have sexual ebbs and flows in their libidos. They are finding that women need more sleep than men, like statistically, scientifically speaking, and that they're saying even an hour extra of sleep will help your libido function more. You're more likely to have a functioning libido if you are well rested, essentially. So like going back to your fucking basics of, am I getting enough sleep recently? Am I eating well? Am I exercise, or am I sweating and having movement in my life? Exercise is such a word, but like going back to the fucking basic fundamentals and then being like, oh yeah, no wonder I can't come. I can't fucking think of anything else right now. When you're going through relationship trials and tribulations or stagnation in a relationship, there's this thing called NRE, new relationship energy. That's like the number one reason why people cheat, is because they want to feel something again. It's like, oh, I just feel like my sex is getting so monotonous, blah, blah, blah. That's why I'm such a proponent for open relationships, but we don't have enough time for that. But like, there are so many fucking things that are connected to libido, that are factors that we don't talk about in health, in sexual health, at doctors. They'll always ask the women, oh, well, have you had a glass of wine before fucking? Rather than like literally anything else. But I get the intention behind it. It's like, what else is going on in life? Because sex is so important for so many people. And so when a wrench gets thrown in that cycle, our whole worlds could fall apart. I talked about on my podcast a time recently where it was taking me, and I think I even messaged you and Lauren about it. It was taking me 45 minutes to orgasm during masturbation.
Wow.
And I wanted to die. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
I know myself.
I know my body. Like I was so fucked about it. I asked my gyno about it. I talked to my therapist about it. And like, I even went to SLA meetings, which is Sex Love Addicts Anonymous meetings. Cause I was like, am I just like addicted? Like, have I just become desensitized to it? And like, I wish there was one answer as to how it went back to my regular functioning self, but like
maybe you were did you think you were spiraling about it?
Self-spiraling. Yeah. Then once I was in it, but you know what? It was like a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
Something else in life happened and I forgot about it a little bit. I went a little bit longer without having sex or self-sex, solo sex. Like things just rebalanced. And I think it only becomes a problem when it's becoming disruptive to like your functioning or your relationship. So that's when I would say seek medical advice, professional advice from someone who's not me. But other than that, like ebb and flow of sexual like desire is so fucking normal. And like normalize that and stop asking people how many times they fuck a week because
you're not them, they're not you.
Exactly. And we're all lying about it anyways.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be the same every week.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
You mentioned the glass of wine, and actually a few times we got a question. How did your relationship with sex change when you got sober? How was having sex sober for the first time?
Yes. Oh my God. I didn't realize how I was having sex without intention my entire life until I stopped drinking. Like I had no self-awareness. Like I would drink to have sex so that because I thought that's how I could have fun sex. I thought that's how I could actually get to where I needed to be in the bedroom. I did not realize that I was band-aiding over like everything using alcohol. Like, yes, did it maybe make it easier to talk to someone? And eventually, does it take the nerves away to kiss someone a little bit? Sure. But do you know what the fucking real experience is the only way out is through being sober and figuring that out about myself was like the most mind-blowing confidence
epiphany
boost.
moment. Yeah.
The first time I had sex sober, holy fuck. Like I had never had sex with someone for the first time sober until I was in my 30s. Wow. Every single time I had sex with someone for the first time, I was drunk. Or had booze in my system. Yeah. And going back to just like setting intentions and like getting through that scariness, that nervousness, and like fully realizing your actual power and confidence and desires and wants and boundaries and needs. Everything about sex changed. Everything about pleasure changed. I mean, everything in life changed when I quit drinking, but like challenging others to try it and like figure out what do we use it for? Are we using it as like a coping mechanism? Are we using it as an inhibitor? Are we using it? What are we using it for? Like I would challenge everybody to examine their relationship with alcohol and sex because our culture again is just like so convoluted ass backwards about that like we could all do ourselves a favor by just going like, oh yeah, how do I use this in my sexual life? You know, like I go to sex parties all the time and there's booze there and it's hardly touched. Like maybe from first timers or people that are kind of like walking around socializing, but like it's a community that really knows how to be like, this is what I do and don't want. This is what I'm experiencing. And like, if maybe someone's drinking, it's like to get over the social nerves of it all, but not really like people that are there who are experienced with like play and pleasure. It's really fascinating stuff.
Matt, do you want to close it out?
Yeah.
That wasn't nearly as dirty as I thought, so I'm happy.
No, you kept it clean.
Yeah, I kept it pretty light.
Scrubbed.
Kept it pretty clean. Yes.
Sparkling.
Yeah, sparkling.
Well, thank you so much for sitting with us today, Kelsey, our sexpert, self-proclaimed sexpert. We're so glad you came to answer all the questions that we couldn't.
I'm so sorry I talked so long, but I could talk about this forever. Thank you for having me.
We love when you come and sit with us. We love listening to you. Thank you for being here. I love you. But you guys, don't forget to wash your hands, pee after sex, be nice to people, be nice to yourselves, which is an addition from you. Is there anything else? Get vaccinated.
Good one.
Use your mask. And we will see you next week. for more episodes, more sexy episodes. Until next time, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.